All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining in today. So today we're going to talk about a very common and easily explained topic: meal plans versus counting macros, tracking macros. So I talked a little bit about what are macros and macronutrients last video. So this time I want to talk about why maybe tracking our macros, our protein, fat, and carbohydrate content, as compared to like blindly following a meal plan, is worth the work and effort. So it goes under the umbrella quote of, what is it? Give someone a fish, you feed them for a day. Teach someone to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So someone who is following a meal plan really doesn't have much variability in anything that happens outside of that meal plan. So if you're supposed to eat at home, either like something that was like out of a little like package, or like pre-prepped meals, or like it's like this delivery service, or like you get, a half a cup of rice, 4 ounces of protein, and a green vegetable. Like if that is your meal plan, that's great when you are at home following your meal plan, because you're doing what the list says, and then you're going to do the thing. Like you're just following, like it's like a plug and play. I'm just doing what this thing says, the end. Yay, I get results. The issue is what happens if, God forbid, you want to go to brunch with some friends. That's not on your meal plan. So then like what happens later in the day after you go to brunch and maybe you had some pancakes, or maybe you got the cinnamon roll, or like a really nice latte, maybe you had a mimosa. Then what happens like the rest of the day? Do you eat the other meals just like you would? Do you only have half of them because you have to make up for it? Or like, oh, fuck it, I'll just get back to it tomorrow and I'm just going to eat whatever the hell I want for the rest of the day. There's no room for life to happen. Or maybe you had a normal, your meal plan breakfast, and you have your meal plan lunch. Maybe you're like allotted like one snack or whatever. And then all of a sudden a friend calls you and they have a huge celebration. They got the promotion that they've been waiting for. Or maybe they broke up with their boyfriend and they're not doing so well, and like they need you in that moment. And all of a sudden you're going to go out to dinner, or maybe get a glass of wine, like do something. Well, that's not on your meal plan. How do you navigate that? Shit. You're trying so hard to be good, but the meal plan doesn't leave room for life, nor does it really teach you anything. So what happens when you go on vacation for a week and you're not going to follow your meal plan? You're just like scrounging. You're scrambling, trying to figure out what the hell to eat, what the hell to do. You truly have no idea. That's not helpful in the long run. Anything outside of your just structured meal plan, you're kind of just like up shit's creek. You have nothing that you can do about it. Whereas when you're tracking macros, think of it as like a daily budget of your overall kind of calories, but we just kind of split it into protein, fats, and carbohydrates. So by the end of the day, I'm just going to throw out some numbers just so this kind of makes sense. Let's say in a day, you're aiming for, easy numbers to remember, 120 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbohydrate, and 60 grams of fat. So in that example, I hope I remember those numbers, is by the end of the day, you're just trying to hit around 120 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbohydrate, 60 grams of fat, right around those targets. So let's say I do brunch with friends. Cool. After brunch, I'm like, all right, I had maybe an egg white omelet with some avocado or some cheese. So log some eggs in there, some veggies, some cheese or avocado, had some hash browns. So maybe I'm going to log that, or did some toast or some fruit. Did have a mimosa, going to log some champagne and some orange juice. So then I can kind of see what I spent. I probably spent this much on protein in the 120 grams that I had to give for the day, spent this much on carbohydrates, spent this much on fat. So now I know for the rest of the day, maybe I'm like, you know what? I didn't have like my breakfast was more fat and carbohydrate forward than protein forward. So for lunch, I'm going to really lean into more of like a protein forward lunch with less fats and carbohydrates. It's kind of like an adjustment system. So no matter where in your day, maybe like a wrench gets thrown in, you can adjust as needed and still feel like you're making progress towards your goals. You're kind of learning how to structure a plate. You're learning what's in your food instead of being like half a cup of rice, protein thing, green shit, the end. It's like, okay, wow. I always assumed protein or peanut butter was a really good source of protein. But after tracking macros, I'm realizing that it's primarily a fat source that has some protein in it. Macro tracking takes more effort, more brain cells, more energy, and more time than following a just very straightforward, rigid meal plan. But once you do it for a little bit, like riding a bike, it gets easier and easier and easier, and you can learn a lot about your foods that you're eating along the way. So, for example, in about a month, I'm going on a family vacation. We're going to be an all-inclusive resort for a spring break. I'm not going to be tracking my macros, nor am I going to be following a meal plan. But because I track my macros, when I'm making choices around my food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, dessert, cocktails, all the good things, I'm aware of what's in it. So I can be like, you know what? I'm going to pair this pastry with, maybe some turkey bacon and an egg white omelet because I know this pastry is going to be really forward with fats and carbohydrates and I really want it. So I'm going to balance it with some things to make me feel good, just so I can make educated choices about the good indulgent things and the more healthy things, even when I'm not formally tracking. I can take what I've learned by the process of tracking and apply it to my life in a very flexible way when I'm not formally tracking. And then when you are tracking macros, it's just a constant adjustment system of I have my day plan for the next couple days of what I'm going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. And if something adjusts, I can adjust my macros that day to still be in accordance with my goals. I don't expect people who track macros to track every single morsel of every single gram every single day. But when we're learning a new skill set, you want to lean more heavily into it to get over the hump of wow, this is oppressive, this is a lot, and be like, all right, this isn't that bad. It totally makes sense now. I'm in a groove. So personally speaking and professionally speaking, I find someone learning how to track their macros and doing it in a way they're paying attention to what is in the food choices that they're enjoying and eating is far more beneficial for long-term health, fitness goals, and or weight management than following a meal plan that is only going to be good as long as things go just exactly to plan on that meal plan. And the second you start to do anything outside of that, you typically don't know how to navigate and move forward in a cool, calm, collected way, much like people do when they're utilizing macro tracking. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please let me know if you have any questions. And again, please give me a follow. I'm pretty active on Instagram and TikTok. Both names are at Having and Eating Cake, all one word. And I hope to see you there. Be sure to say hi.